When I was still a chud, big on the anti-SJW junk, I used to always use the word trigger as a pejorative to describe people who are easily offended by stupid things. You know, pretty much synonymous with saying someone is an SJW. I used to make fun of trigger warnings as well, and I used to see that as things for cowards who can't face reality. Oh, someone needs to be told that something problematic will be on screen, and certain people may not be able to handle that because maybe it's tied to a traumatic event that they themselves experienced. Nah, forget that. They're just cowards. It was a totally disgusting and ableist mindset that I had, and I see all too many people still have said mindset. Of course, you see reactionaries still have this mindset. That's really no surprise at all because it's really not uncommon for a reactionary to lack basic human decency, so that's really no surprise. But there's plenty of lefties out there who also weaponize the word trigger and use it to describe people who are easily offended. A lot of the times I see it as a way to get back at the reactionaries, use their language against them, but still, that really makes you no better, and it is still ableist as fuck to say trigger in that way and weaponize trigger warnings as something, only sensitive people need, something that is so stupid and not necessary at all. I'm sure you're all for the liberation of disabled people and advocate for the rights of disabled people, or at least you should be, but yet you still choose to use language that helps further alienate these kind of people and trivialize their disabilities. And how do you think the people who may need trigger warnings feel when they hear people who are supposed to be on their side weaponizing certain words like trigger to make them seem like they mean something very trivial when they could be suffering a condition like PTSD where certain things can be a trigger of a traumatic memory and send them into a state of distress? It is a horrible condition that I wish on no one, and I myself do not have it, but I have basic empathy and know not to use these kind of words as a pejorative because it is highly offensive and highly insensitive towards people who actually suffer conditions like this. And it is so depressing to see other leftists engage in this type of language when they themselves claim that they are all for the liberation of disabled workers. Like, you either care about these people or you don't. And when you use these kind of words, it is clear to me that you do not care about these people, or at least you just LARP about caring about these people, and in reality you don't actually care about these people. Because if you did, you would know that the language you are using is absolutely 110% problematic and are just further contributing to the alienation and negative stigma surrounding people who may need things like trigger warnings. And I understand it's going to be a very, very long time before trigger warnings have the negative stigma it has currently removed from it, and who knows if we'll even see that in our lifetimes because the word trigger has been so mangled in recent years that it is ingrained in so many people's minds that it is synonymous with someone just simply getting offended over something stupid and trivial and it having nothing to do with an underlying medical condition that one may have. But it starts with people realizing that the words that they use, certain words that they use as pejoratives that weren't originally pejoratives, can be very harmful to certain people and reinforce negative stigmas surrounding them. And it makes these people's lives even harder on top of having a condition that they suffer from because they have so many assholes trivializing the condition that they have by weaponizing the words associated with said condition. An online friend who I follow on Twitter like a week or two ago retweeted someone calling out some asshole who was making fun of someone else for starting their tweet off with trigger warning food. And the person pretty much said, "Who needs a trigger warning for food? That is so stupid. Who could possibly be triggered by food?" And I believe this tweet had quite a few likes as well. And the reply section was just a sea of ableist assholes saying pretty much the same thing. And like, if you can't place yourself into someone else's shoes, someone who may have a condition that you do not suffer from, then don't mock and ridicule them because it is obvious that you don't even care enough to understand the condition that they suffer and care enough to understand that certain things that you may see as fucking nothing can be a trigger of a traumatic event for them. So if you can't understand that and you don't care enough to understand that, then don't fucking mock and ridicule them and just move the fuck on because obviously you're just an asshole who chooses not to care at all about mental health. I'm so sick of the lack of empathy for people who suffer mental conditions. Oh, they're pansies, this is stupid, that is stupid, trigger warnings are so unnecessary. Cool, you're fine, you're abled, you don't need trigger warnings or anything of the sort in your life. But why do you feel the need to mock and ridicule people who need these things in their life? What the fuck are they doing? Are they harming anyone? Are they such a hindrance on your life that you feel the need to take your time and make fun of these people who, again, have done fucking nothing to you and need these things in their life because they suffer conditions that require things like trigger warnings? So next time you feel the inclination to say someone is quote unquote triggered, at least understand the implications of you using that word in that sort of context. It may not be that obvious to you, but you are contributing to the alienation and the negative stigma surrounding people who need things like trigger warnings, or just really people who suffer from mental health conditions in general. It doesn't have to be right in your face for it to exist, but it does indeed exist, and it does indeed harm people who are disabled all across the globe in many different ways. And this should especially be obvious to people who claim to be on the left and claim to fight for marginalized people, and yet this shit still needs to be told to so many people on the left because so many people on the left still choose to be ableist, still choose to use certain words in certain contexts that further perpetuates the harm of a marginalized group of people. Either you're ableist or not, and the words that you choose to use prove that you're ableist or not. And if you choose to weaponize words like trigger, then congratulations, you're an ableist piece of shit and are nothing more than a virtue signaler when you talk about the liberation of marginalized groups of people, especially disabled people, which unfortunately much of the left pretends doesn't exist. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.